just patrolling the streets. It has to start with healing ourselves and our communities and giving our at-risk youth a second chance to become productive citizens. Many of you will know a young person that the education system failed, who, if he or she had that second chance through mentorship, training, remedial education, and job placement, could become a positive contributor to our society instead of chopping and pushing badness. Time come to use your vote to change that. Find out everything you need to know about voting at markgoldingja.com/vote. Remember, get out and vote. Your voice, your vote, your choice.
My fellow Jamaicans, members of the press, I want to welcome you this afternoon to this discussion being hosted by the People's National Party. I am Donna Scott Montley. I am a campaign spokesperson, and I'm supported by Raymond Price and by Cleveland Tomlinson, two of our young, vibrant comrades, part of our future. So we are just 10 days away from the election, when we, the People's National Party, are fully prepared and expectant that we shall be marching on to victory. And prepared also that everything that is broken down, everything then broke down, we will build back better than before. So there are some events which have taken place and some which are going to happen. And I want to discuss some of those events with you, reminding you that on the 12th of August, we launched our manifesto, a manifesto crafted for the people, with love for the people, with Jamaica as our mission, but a mission which reflects love, because people are at the center of it. I don't think that the government liked it much, but I think they were also shocked by the boldness and the confidence in which we articulated our plans. So I gather that on Sunday night, they have decided to do something which they consider to be quite unique, never done before, in the country, in another parish apart from Kingston, to persons who are their very die-hard base, their own supporters, not a manifesto for the people of Jamaica, but a manifesto which is to be delivered to their supporters at a mass rally. They think that is something bold. I think that it reflects who they are. We of the People's National Party are committed to building a Jamaica that works for all of us and not just for a few. And our manifesto reflects that. We will, very shortly, be also launching what we call a Manifesto Light, which is really ideas which we are taking from our present manifesto. But there are some which we will be introducing for the first time, simply because we know that those who accuse you of copying and pasting do so because they are experts at it. We have had this experience before. It is not a new thing. We have heard ideas articulated by one of our spokespersons, Damian Crawford, who suggested that the GCT on electricity should be removed or lowered for certain sets of persons. And it was scoffed at by no lesser person than the Minister of Finance himself, only to see it being implemented. We recommended that GCT should be reduced. Again, we were ridiculed, and then it was implemented. So we are accustomed to it. We're accustomed to putting forward our ideas and having them taken. Indeed, the Prime Minister has boasted that he's ready to be everybody's baby father. He will take your ideas and he will implement it. So personally, I don't understand the excitement, which is now being demonstrated by the campaign committee. There is a history and a track record. You know, what is fascinating is that for the last 19 years, Jamaica has been led for 15 of those years by a JLP government. They have a right to delay launching a manifesto because what they have projected to the country is failed promises. We're going to have fixed election dates within 100 days. We're going to have term limits within 100 days. We're going to have new cities. Portmore is going to be a Silicon Valley. We're going to have a new city in Trelawney, a new city in Negril. They're going to stop taking the $11.4 billion from the National Housing Trust, which every year they're going to build 700,000 houses. They're going to build 1,000 social houses. All failed promises. How can you actually go to the people with a manifesto when the people will judge you and say those promises have been made? Over the last 15 years, we have heard them, and we don't want to hear any more promises. But let me have you hear from Cleveland Tomlinson, who is one of the bright sparks in our party. We promote young people, and we are going to introduce to you now Cleveland Tomlinson.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott-Motley. There have been some unsettling developments throughout the political campaign, and that's a pretext for us to be here. But before I address one of the most significant unsettling developments, I want to use the opportunity to respond to some critiques that we have heard from the Jamaica Labour Party. The other day, they gathered to criticize our manifesto, and I listened keenly to the substantive nature of the criticism. In struggling to make a substantive critique, they resorted to saying, on one hand, that our arguments, our policies, our proposals were AI generated. They also said that they were not feasible and they cannot be done. And then on the other hand, they said that our proposals are really a continuation of what they are doing. So I've been saying to myself, they need to decide which narrative they're going to put in the public domain. It's either our policies are not feasible or they are a continuation of what they're doing. But both cannot coexist. So they need to huddle somewhere to decide the narrative that they're going to put out with respect to our manifesto. With respect to the political debates, there will be 3 political debates, the first of which will begin tomorrow, the social debates. The 2 parties are heading into that debate. One party has launched its manifesto. The other party, the public is yet to see what the plans and proposals are for the Jamaican people over the next 5 years. We think that this is woefully unacceptable. A debate is an opportunity to compare policy prescriptions and ideas. The Jamaican people will be wrong is woefully unacceptable. A debate is an opportunity to compare policy prescriptions and ideas. The Jamaican people will be robbed in Jamaica. They answer the critical questions with respect to the specifics about their plans for the next 5 years, about how Jamaicans, majority of Jamaicans, will be able to afford affordable housing, about land reform. So we reject this sort of development, that we're heading into the first of 3 political debates without the opportunity to assess the manifesto, the policy prescriptions, and the proposals from the Jamaica Labour Party. And what it does on their side, it will simply reduce the debate to a debate of theatre. Because what they will be talking about are words put together without any substantive, well-structured policy prescription that journalists and members of the public can critically assess. That can never be accepted in a mature democracy and can never be accepted of a political party that is seeking to run the country for another 5 Labour Party. And this way, the way that they regard to be revolutionary, unique, to launch their manifesto at a rally, I don't see any uniqueness in that. I don't see the revolutionary nature of that. The manifesto should have been made available for the public to assess. So we say that that is not an appropriate development for a party that is seeking to run the country for another 5 years. At this time, I'll hand over to Raymond Price.
In addition to the points already so ably made by Comrade Scott Motley and Comrade Tomlinson, I'd like to emphasize the following. You know, the problem the Jamaica Labour Party has with a manifesto being released in the day and to the full public is emblematic of the fact that for the 9 years they've been in office, the 9 consecutive years, what they should be speaking about are manifestations. The absence of manifestations that positively inure to the country's development is one of the reasons why they have, as Cleveland points out, first accused us of using artificial intelligence to generate a manifesto, and then in the next breath accusing us of plagiarism. Well, I can refute the suggestion that we've cut and paste, because we certainly have not cut from Tufton's record any intention, as we drill down to the details, to inflate at $31 million to the public purse an item, a tool, that cost less than $2 million. Intention, as we drill down to the details, to inflate at $31 million to the public purse an item, a tool, that cost less than $2 million. We have no intention to, nor have we cut. Say that student goes to school 5 days per week. That's $50 one way, $50 the other way. $100 a day, $500 a week. In 4 weeks in September, that would be $2,000. And in 4 weeks in October, that would be another $2,000. So the great promise to enhance the ability for tertiary students to achieve their education targets is to give them the grand total of 4,000 Jamaican dollars over 2 months. On the other hand, if that student is the first in their family to matriculate at a tertiary institution, they'll be given an entire scholarship for the duration of their pursuit of their degree. If that student is from an area or studying in an area that the government identifies as critical to national development, there will be further waivers and further grants and bursaries to which they have access. If they are not in the first from their family and have to go through the student's loan, if they are teachers, but every year they remain in the public sector teaching Jamaican students here in Jamaica, their students' loan will be waived, discounted over the life of their service to the country. They may end up having a scholarship in the sense that they will not have to repay a loan. And on the other hand, the Jamaica Labour Party has been making some claims. Through a former Senator Marlon Morgan, now that Parliament has been dissolved, is the claim that we are pushing violence. It was not the People's National Party who encamped at the access point to Kling Kling and kept our representative, Paul Buchanan, in a state of inability to move freely while he campaigned. It was not the Jamaica Labour Party who blocked Patrick Peterkin from being able to get to the nomination center, causing him to have to get there via a bike. And let us speak about what is happening at the FLA, the Firearms Licensing Authority, where a former JLP councillor, Shane Darling, has pursued a questionable set of actions where persons are being targeted to hand over their weapons without any proof of breaches to the Firearms Licensing Act or any regulations connected to those. In my own constituency of East Central St. Catherine, we have provided locator pins and pictures of where our paraphernalia has been destroyed. We have also provided videos of persons clad in JLP paraphernalia removing PNP poster boards. And I make the point to say, as someone who grew up with him granny, those who play victim and then cry wolf are among the most dangerous in society. And we use this opportunity to remind the Jamaica Labour Party that Jamaica continues to be a country that honors our democratic traditions. There are two main political parties in this race, and the People's National Party not only intends to campaign robustly and lawfully, at the end of the campaign, we intend to be declared the victors in a majority of constituencies, and that will herald in the start of the Mark Golding administration.
Thank you, Raymond. I want to address one issue which has been personally very disturbing to me, and it is the allegation that the People's National Party has blacklisted journalists. I want to say to those journalists who are here present and those who will be listening to this feed that we have the highest regard for that profession, and we expect them to maintain very high standards. The fact that this matter was made public was another concern I had, because both political parties were asked to keep confidential any such issues which were discussed within the commission. And from all accounts, Abka Fitzhenley, former senator, gave an interview to the Observer in which he made public the views which were discussed and which were held. That is wrong. And the journalistic profession ought to be very concerned about that breach. Going forward in the debates, it's very important that all the journalists who participate are seen as being credible professionals. Now, we did not blacklist, but we did object very strenuously to the participation of persons from a particular media house. And it is no secret which media house that would be. If you have the head of a media house inviting persons within the party to box down their general secretary, you have to wonder what would motivate not that comment and the viciousness behind it. Indeed, he was prompted to come back on air to apologize for his unseemly remarks. That same person has made unsubstantiated allegations accusing the People's National Party of shooting up their headquarters. That should be condemned. We have had journalists, we have had persons from that network who have berated a former prime minister and who have disclosed, quite frankly, their political bias. I think the People's National Party is well within its right to question the integrity of such persons within a debate. I myself have had personal experience of the unprofessional nature of their relationship to the People's National Party. And I think that most of us, members of the PNP, have had it. Now, in my view, the People's National Party is absolutely correct to ask that there be a level of objectivity which is brought into such a debate. And that is all that we did. The JLP objected to some of our finest journalists who have distinguished themselves to the point where PNP people say they're Labourite and Labourites say they are PNP. That for me is really a mark of, it's a testimony to how they do their work, that each side is equally dissatisfied with the level of objectivity which they bring to the debate. And I could not allow this moment to pass without pointing that out.
Thank you, Comrade Scott Motley. At the press conference, the Jamaica Labour Party questioned and made untruthful comments about the funding conference shortly after the leaders' budget presentation in March with respect to how we are going to fund our proposals. I want to budget presentation in March with respect to how we are going to fund our proposals. I want to establish from the outset that the PNP is committed to fiscal discipline, fiscal responsibility, living within our means, because we were the ones who strengthened in our last administration. Because we were the ones who strengthened in our last administration the fiscal rules. We restored stability in the macroeconomy. Recall, in 2012, when the PNP came to office, the economy was on the precipice of a collapse. We had destroyed our relationship with the international financial community, largely an outcome of how badly the Jamaica Labour Party administration that preceded us dealt with the relationship, the fiscal rules. And we are committed to the downward trajectory of the debt. We are committed to fiscal discipline. How are we going to fund our plans? If you examine the national budget, it has two broad components. You have debt servicing expenditure. That's roughly $340 billion. That's the amount that goes towards amortization and interest payment. That is non-discretionary. If debt is due in the year, you must service the debt. Then you have the second component, which is non-debt expenditure. Which is roughly the programs that the government of the day determines will happen in the fiscal year. The government has full latitude to determine what programs it finances. If the government has the latitude to determine which program it finances, it simply means that this component of the budget can be regarded as discretionary expenditure because the government has the discretion. It has always been so that this component of the budget is regarded to be discretionary expenditure. So when I heard the minister the other day talking about there's no discretionary portion of the budget, nobody in the PNP said that there was a line item in the budget called discretionary expenditure. We never had any pro box moment. We don't do that on our side. We said that that portion of the budget is regarded to be discretionary expenditure. And that is the portion of the budget that will finance programs, because one can reasonably understand to the tune of $140 billion. That will be available ceteris paribus, meaning holding all other things fixed. That will be. So the downward movement of the debt is largely an outcome of the reform that the PNP put in place. The Jamaica Labour Party didn't have a choice. It's legally binding. It's not optional. Party didn't have a choice. It's legally binding. It's not optional. Any government, PNP or JLP, would have to structure the budget in such a way the debt year over year, so much so that it should reach 60% of GDP by 2027, 2028. So when I hear them talking about we have brought down the debt, as if it's an ingenuity on their part, as if they're some economic genius because they have been able to bring down the debt. What they should tell the people is that they were legally forced to do it because of the law that the People's National Party put in place in 2014. So when the debt reaches 60% of GDP, per the fiscal rules, we'll be able to relax or reduce the primary balance. And when you reduce the primary balance, it simply creates more fiscal space for the government. And through the creation of that fiscal space, we'll have more revenue room to finance our programs. So we have fully costed our programs and our policy prescriptions, and we will not wreck the country because we were the ones who rescued the country after they wrecked it between 2007 and 2011.
And then on the other hand, the inability for the target that they have set to have been met, such as the for a specified period then to extract from the National Housing Trust roughly 11 to assist with the recurring expenditure as well as paying public sector salaries. The then government was taken to court by the then Jamaica Labour Party led opposition. They've been in government now for 9 years, and each of those years, they have continued to extract from the National Housing Trust this $11 billion plus. That has so constrained the NHT that it has been unable to provide the low-income housing that it has been mandated by law when it was established in the 1970s to provide. The Mark Golding administration will stop that extraction of $11 billion annually from the National Housing Trust, which will be able to finance our target of 50,000 low-income housing solutions across the 14 parishes, which works out to roughly 600 to 700 houses per constituency over those 5 years. It is important to recall that during previous times in office, it was the People's National Party that has always responded through what we love to proclaim as providing land for the landless and housing for the homeless. When you look at Portmore, I could not go back to East Central St. Catherine if I did not make recognition of Cedar Grove, Silverstone, Portmore Pines, Morris Meadows, Meadowvale, Surrey Meadows, Caymanas Site A, Caymanas Site D, and Hamilton Gardens, all established during the tenure of respective and successive and successful People's National Party administrations. And it's not limited to Portmore. There are not far from this headquarters, Pines of Karachi, Long Mountain, and there is Mona, there is Harborview. So our record on housing propels us to be able to make the commitments that when we are returned to office, we will pick up the slack and go further ahead in providing this critical asset which transforms Jamaicans from welfare to well-being and from well-being to wealth creation through the provision of titles for the lands they've lived on and through facilities such as the rent-to-own program, such as the paying or waiving rather of the closing fees and related costs for young professionals to purchase their first home, that we are able to continue to commit to providing homes for Jamaican families and communities in which those families can live safely and enjoy a quality of life in the land of their birth. All of which, by the way, have not been achieved during these 9 years. And I could ask it this way to each of you watching with just a quip. How many Jamaicans presently sleep with their windows and doors open?
Thank you. We will have an open microphone for the press, but I'd just like to make 2 small corrections. One, during Mrs. Scott Matley's presentation, she said 700,000 houses were promised. It was in fact 70,000. And during Mr. Price's presentation, he said the JLP was not responsible for pinning down our candidate in West Central last night. It was in fact the JLP that was responsible for that. I'm sure.
And thank you very much for that
I'm
correction.
sure.
You know that I'm very sensitive about anything which seems as though I'm trying to mislead anybody.
I know. Would anybody present? Any questions? Any questions? What about, thank you.
Good afternoon. Carla Remlin from CVM TV. To Mrs. Donna Scott Montley, you announced that there will be a manifesto light. When will that be released? And also, why wasn't this information put in the manifesto? So what you have for the manifesto light, and why wasn't that put in the manifesto?
At the very launch of the manifesto, we made it absolutely clear that there was going to be another document which would be presented. We did indicate that we would make the presentation so soon as the Jamaica Labour Party stated when it would launch its manifesto. Accordingly, on Monday morning, at a press conference, we will be sharing our manifesto light with the public and with the press. Our manifesto light will highlight the plans which we intend to implement, the promises which are not going to be empty promises, but promises which we will keep, which will enhance the lives of every Jamaican. We have taken into concern the youth. We have plans for the aged. We have plans for pensioners, because we're looking at the society as a whole of society. We have plans which are inclusive of marginalized groups, because we know the only way that we can truly prosper as a nation is if everybody feels that they have a stake in the future of Jamaica. And that is why, for example, we have stated that our constitutional reform program, we are going to go back out to consult with the people as to some of the views which they have expressed, because we feel that a constitution must reflect the strongest desires and aspirations of the country. And we can't sit in an office and determine what those will be.
Were you through? I'm so sorry. The Jamaica Labour Party has attempted to make heavy weather because of our publication or intended publication of the Manifesto Light. High school students of literature will understand that you buy the substantive text, for example, To Kill a Mockingbird, and you buy the Cliff Notes, which is a quick, at-ease reference wherein you can get to more salient aspects of the substantive text in a manner that relates to you. Since our launch on Tuesday, for example, as I walk through my constituency, retired persons have said, when I scan this, take me straight, reference to the QR code, take me straight to the section that speaks about retired people who still have some amount of their mortgage to complete, but they are now on a fixed or diminishing income, diminishing because of the erosion of purchasing power. When you interact with police officers, they are saying, just show me straight where we speak to the police. And then I explain to them that, among other things, their overtime will not be taxed as part of their salary. When you speak about retaining teachers, that teacher, so anxious already by 9 years of disrespect and underperformance from the Wholeness Administration, wants to be able to go straight, again, if you will, to the Cliff Notes, the section of the Manifesto Light that speaks directly to them and how the People's National Party, in the first term of the Mark Golding administration, will resolve those tensions and those outstanding issues. So if there was really a claim of a unique approach to the launch of the manifesto, well, this is the manifestation of that innovation, not the attempt through leaflets in the dark among just your party base in Sam Sharp Square, as historic as that square is, to then throw out a manifesto. And just quickly, you know what I found interesting from that remark by Kamina Johnson-Smith is her description of the need for a supplementary as a confirmation of the failure of the first document. How many supplementary budgets have been presented by the ministers of finance during this 9 years of the Wholeness Administration? I applaud you, Kamina, for finally confirming that the substantive budgets presented ahead of each supplementary budget is a confirmation that the substantive budget was a failure.
Are there any questions online? Any questions online?
So while you check the questions online, I have to say, I just want to speak very briefly about the school bus, the rural school bus system. Yesterday, I was reading a remark made by the Deputy Prime Minister, Horace Chang. And for a moment, I thought he was actually speaking about the buses, because he was speaking in such a condemnatory term about donations which were made of reconditioned items. And there was no proper, they broke down within 3 months. There was no system for maintenance. There were no persons who could repair it. And I said, oops, so the cabinet didn't approve the school bus. Because the very criticisms which he made about the donation to Glendevon, I think it was, Glendevon Primary School, are the criticisms which one could make of this rural school bus system. Let me make it clear. I support a rural school bus system. A pilot was implemented in Clarendon in 2013. It was implemented out of the People's National Party's concern for the safety of children. It was stopped in 2020 under the Jamaica Labour Party. So I want to put that context there. But I have to ask myself some serious questions about a spend of $1.4 billion on reconditioned old school buses for children. I have a brother who actually worked in the system in Florida. And he happened to be in Jamaica when we were discussing it. And he said, but that's a major spend. Usually we just send them to auction, ask a little bit of money. Usually it is third world countries who purchase them. But to retrofit them for Jamaica is going to be a considerable expense. You actually have to cut those buses and do work on them to make sure that they are fit for use in Jamaica. We have already seen the accidents. We know what will happen. In addition to $1.4 billion, there's $25 million which the minister already had to spend on ordering new tires. So I want to make it clear that this is not the only person who has bad mind is the person who ordered the buses. Because it would be bad mind. In the same way Minister Chang spoke about the equipment yesterday, disparagingly of anybody who would do something like that. I say, Minister Chang, speak to your own, cast them out of your own eye before you look at anybody else's. So if there are no further questions, I want to thank you all. Those persons who are online who have been messaging me while the discussion has taken place, I want to thank you for having participated.
In wrapping up, just to say there are no further questions online, but just would like to remind the media that our manifesto light will be launched on Monday morning. It is not a supplementary document. It is a document, a companion document. It is the main document, which is called the manifesto, is about 70 pages, and the manifesto light is a page. So that could never supplement. One could never supplement the other. It is a companion document which will be an easier read for the majority of our people. Thank you very much. See you all in Mandeville on Sunday evening, where we will have the first of 2 mass meetings, and then see you again on Monday morning. Thank you.
And please listen to the debates on Saturday night, our first social debate, where we will be prepared to answer questions about our manifesto, even while the press will be unable to ask any questions about the manifesto of the Jamaica Labour Party. Thank you.